Hi everyone, welcome back to another one of our sessions, How to Cope Without Therapy. Today, today, I think I'm gonna surprise you and go a little bit intense. And I've got a bit of a reading for you at sort of making sense of things. Um, and this is how it all started. Like this got a bit intense for me earlier today, so I sort of got my mind in and out of things and trying to um, I guess make sense of it and cope with it with the whole realization of it myself. And I'm like, wow, um, go figure. And this is how it started earlier. Usually this morning I have any morning I wake up, make my coffee, and go through whatever feed happens, be it Facebook or Instagram. Have a look at my YouTube channel. I just started my website and it's awesome. So I was looking at that as well, and I still have some ideas. Anyway, so I was having my coffee, and this post came up, and I actually shared it on my Instagram, um, and it goes something like this. Sometimes you don't actually know how traumatic something you went through is until you talk about it, like it's just some random anecdote, until you realize the table has gone silent and your friends are all staring at you like, what the So I read that again and I thought, wow, I had recently a long conversation like that with someone, and it we were talking about something in the past and something from my past, and I was just um, for the first time I was just articulating out loud the exact same things that I was telling myself in my head, um, as I was going through it years back and coping with it afterwards. And it's sort of gotten sort of like eh, in the landscape in the back, and wouldn't give two bobs about it really. But then the question came up, and this friend of mine, he was like, but how come? And I'm like, what do you mean how come? Just like that. And it is the way it is, and I don't see what the big fuss is about, and this is what happened, and this is what was said and done, and I had to do this. And his eyes were just getting bigger and bigger, and pretty much like the like the post, like until you realize the table has gone silent and your friends are all staring at you like, what the fuck? And I was, it was during that conversation with him that I was hearing my thoughts out loud, that I was putting that across. It well, not so much for him to understand, more it was not for him to understand, it was like a very clinical process. This is what happened, this is what the situation was, and this is what I've done. Mathematic. And I was as I was hearing myself out, I thought to myself, if he wouldn't question it from me, I wouldn't look at it as abnormal. I would just look at it as one of those fucked up situations where you just have to deal with it. And he was just like all full on guns blazing, as to, do you even realize? And I thought to myself, no, I haven't actually said that out loud to him, but in my head I was like, no, I never really looked at it that way. I never really looked at my experience back then as being something abnormal that I just went through. So that sort of got me started onto this little boiling project, adventure experience, if you'd like, where I realized firsthand, hand on heart, that talking, that putting the same words that go in your head, just expressing them out loud, not going into deep analysis. Don't go too far away into this. Just purely sharing, not again sharing, one of those buzzwords, just purely saying things, not in defensive mode, not to demonstrate something, not to edit how the story went or anything like that. No, just clinically going through a past situation. This is what happened, that was going on. I've seen no other solution. I still stand by the decision I've made 5 years back, and I did this. Um, and I heard myself saying that, and I thought, oh Jesus Louises, this is actually it became quite emotional, and I was just like hoping at some point someone is just gonna hold me and say it's okay. You did good, by the way, but um, it was intense. That's my point. Not only that it was intense, but it was then that I realized firsthand the power of just talking, just articulating things out loud. And I know we say things to ourselves, and we even make peace with them, and in our head, things that they're not pleasant, and you don't necessarily want to talk about, and they're still fully charged, and they they perhaps are just bring back nasty stuff, but it was an eye-opening experience, that conversation, and on so many levels. And the only thing that really happened was just talking out loud, saying what my mind was saying to me all of these years out loud. I wasn't wrong. I wasn't questioned. Um, I wasn't ashamed of things. I just, it wasn't an admission or an explanation. It was merely just um, like a script, like recollecting a script. This is what happened, that what happened, like not even a statement. Yeah, like that's it. And it hit me. And if you're ever curious, I included um, this kind of adventure, this kind of experience in my website. So have a look if you feel like it. It's called Living by Gabby .studio. As much as oh, here's a little bit of thing that I'm sure you didn't know. About more than half a lifetime ago, I was a fine arts student. I did 2 years of fine arts. I was convinced I was going to be a fashion designer. I'm obviously not. But it was during those couple of years that I realized, or at least at the time, one of my lecturers, I remember I pissed him off somehow. That was easy of me. pissing people off, being too blunt and not that diplomatic. And I said something about some paintings in an exhibition we were at, and he just turned around and looked at me and he said, "Well, perhaps you're not an artist." And I said to him, "Well, perhaps you're right. Perhaps I'm not." And long story short, now all of that is history. Here I am, about 20 something years later. I still think somewhere in the deep depths of my heart, actually, I think I am an artist, in some unconventional way. But so I keep that flavor in pretty much anything I put myself into. But this is the reason why my domain and my website, it's called livingbyGabby.studio, because I'd like to think that everything we do is an art. And I'll find something about Helena Bonham Carter, and I'm gonna put on my social media, because she's someone I admire, and she said something really just brilliant about art and what we do and who we are and how we express art. So go check it out. But going back to our intense little story, and how sometimes talking, um, it, it can it can actually become cathartic. You can hear yourself saying things out loud and you go like, wow, I now that I said it, I didn't look at it that way. So anyway, check it out, my perfect stranger adventure. But in the meantime, going into the okay, so what do we do? How do we make sense of this thing that we go through, and we don't seem to realize that it's not just a random awkward situation. It's actually something that you need to look after yourself and guard yourself. So I've got something here. It comes from Dr. Lerner. Remember, we spoke about her in some other videos in episode 1, Dr. Harriet Lerner. And her book here, the one that I really like, her book is called The Dance of Intimacy. And it's about key relationships, it's about acts of change. And in this particular bit, somewhere page 190 to 192, she goes through a whole case of a relationship, particularly in the sense of differences between ourselves, and differences on how we see a situation and how we interact with someone that we're already close to. Like I said, those many years back, what I was alluding to was something that happened with someone extremely close to me, that you, well, no one really expects that kind of treatment from, I suppose. So Dr. Lerner says something here about defining the self. And one of the first steps in achieving defining a self, yourself, is to move beyond silence and fighting, to begin making clear statements about your own beliefs and your own position in important issues. So I guess most of the times we just sort of dive into silence, in the sense of, oh, I'm not going to say anything right now, but I don't really agree with what you just said. So because you care about the other person. I don't know, because you don't want to start an argument, because you want to, I don't know, you want to have ice cream and you don't really have time to prove a point. Whatever that is, it becomes, it's the little things that become routines and habits. So you you tend to uh, uh, settle. That's the word. You tend to settle into either being silent or the polar opposite in actually fighting and um, going in guns blazing. I'm not really like that, and this is what I don't like, and if you don't like it, tough. So one of the first steps in achieving this defining of self and ourself is to move beyond these two poles, beyond silence and fighting. Just leave that behind and begin making clear statements about your own beliefs and your own position on important issues. So you don't necessarily have to uh, um, argue your point of view to the flag, but you can always just come up with a statement that for example, I see things a bit differently when it comes to this kind of situation, and probably I would choose differently. There you go. Quite neutral, politically correct, and it's not conflicting or adversarial or anything like that, but it's also not silence, and it's certainly not fighting. And the one bit that Dr. Lerner moves on to the next page, there's one paragraph that I really think it's worth reading. She says, the fact is that we in a two people relationship, whatever that may be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a relationship with your mother, father, brother, significant other, and uh, anyone that matters really to you. The fact is that we are two separate people who understandably have two different views of the world. Failure to appreciate this blocks real intimacy, which requires a profound respect for differences. So when Dr. Lerner talks about intimacy, she's not all about the sexual intimacy. She's really about those connections, those intimate links and bonds that we have for long term in our lives. So failure to appreciate this, as in the understandably different views of the world, blocks real intimacy, which requires a profound respect for differences. We have seen how vulnerable we all are to confusing closeness with sameness, and behaving as if we should share a common brain or heart with the other person, which, think about it, siblings, or you with a parent, or you with your best friend. You are so much alike, but then you also understand you're so much different, and that intimacy lasts throughout years and long term. And I guess she also talks about fighting and blaming, like silence and distance. They can be the short-term solution, and they can protect both from actually navigating this separateness. Separateness does not mean emotional distance, because when you fight and when you get your silent treatment, it's really, that's what it is. It's an emotional separateness. It doesn't necessarily mean things are sorted, it simply means that either one of you are trying to manage anxiety or emotional intensity, like the times when you just need to put space. I just, you know, when you say I need space, I need to go, I'll come back, but I need to go for right now. I just need to express all of these. So she also goes on and saying, like, do you think this sounds simple? Believe it or not, nothing is as simple. Such conversations require a lion's share of courage, as in that ability to articulate your own statement about something, anything that has an emotional core that struck something in you. um, if if you want to be with someone, if you want to keep someone, I guess that's what she's on about, that kind of intimacy. Such conversations require a lion's share of courage because they bring the separateness between the two of you into bold relief, as in foreground. And as a result, it all evokes tremendous anxiety. So I guess I'll leave it at this because it gets quite deep. But I did tell you, I did warn you from the beginning, this was about something rather intense. So how do we cope? Don't take the easy way, don't take the hard way. Don't go into silence. Don't start fighting for the flag either. Take a deep breath, put those poles apart, leave them, let them be, and try to articulate yourself out loud, recognizing the difference and accepting that you've got an alternate solution, a different opinion, you've got a different view. And that's not right and that's not wrong, it's just different. And in the end of the day, knowing how to deal with differences is what makes intimacy work. Thank you so very much. I'm Gabriela, and I'll see you next time. Bye.